Hello dear students, welcome to another school year. Look forward to seeing you. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person to greet you and to see you, but I'm out of town and I, God willing, will be back on Thursday. I look forward very much to seeing you again. This year we're going to be studying a part of Sefer Vayikra and also the Sefer Bemidbar. So for this first part of the lesson, we don't need to use a Chumash. We'll do that later on. This is just to give you an overview of the first few chapters of Vayikra. Each of you should have received a set of sheets like this. And the left corner will say Tanakh to help you keep organize your sheets. At the bottom there always will be a number. And they're perforated so you'll be able to keep your sheets on a binder. And so we'll begin. So just as a few general things as a reminder, so we know that the Torah, which is also called the Chumash, is called Chumash because of Hamesh. There are 5 books. And it's important to remind us and to make sure that we know the names. Number 1 is Bereshit. Bereshit, Bet Resh Aleph, Bereshit. Number 2 is Shemot. Number 3 is Vayikra, which is spelled with an aleph at the end, Vayikra. Number 4 is Bemidbar. And number 5, you might remember, is called Devarim. Okay. The name of this sefer is Vayikra. The word Vayikra means and he called. He with a capital H because it's going to be Hashem, and he called. Very often the Chumashim have, the rabbis in the Gemara give them also certain titles. So it's like another name. The rabbis called it, Sefer Vayikra, they call it Torat Kohanim. The word Torat is the same word as Torah. So Torat Kohanim means the Torah of the Kohanim, the teaching, the laws of the Kohanim. And the reason why the rabbis called it Torat Kohanim is because there are many laws in Vayikra that are specifically applying to the Kohanim. Many of the laws are meant for the Kohanim. In fact, in English, the book of Vayikra is called Leviticus, which is a Latin word that comes from the word, you guessed it, from the word Levi. Okay? Because again, many of the laws in Vayikra relate to the Kohanim. Number 3, the sequence, meaning the order of the context of this book follows Sefer Shemot. If you remember, Sefer Shemot ends with the building of the Mishkan. The Mishkan was the tabernacle, the portable Beit HaMikdash. So that's what the Torah talks about at the end of Shemot. It ends with the building of the Mishkan. And Sefer Vayikra starts with Hashem speaking to Moshe from this Mishkan. So that's the sequence. That's how the connection is. Okay. The first 2 parshiot, which we're not going to study inside, we're going to learn some general things about the 2 parshiot, deal much with the idea of the Korban. Okay. The Korban we're going to translate as an offering. The word Korban is derived from the word Karov, which means near or close, to come close. Like Leit Karev means to come close, to come near. And that's important to know because that word shows us what the whole intention, what the whole meaning of this procedure is. Bringing a Korban is a way to come close to Hashem. When we give something to someone, we come close to them. So by giving an offering, the idea is that we're trying to become closer to Hashem. That's why the offering in Hebrew is called a Korban. Okay, later on we'll discuss that, the pagans, the idol worshippers, they call these sacrifices. The idea of sacrifice is a pagan idea in the sense that they believe that in order to make their God, their deity, whoever they worship, to make them happy, you have to lose something. You have to deprive yourself of something. Sometimes even a child, they will offer human sacrifices, as the Aztecs and many other pagans did. because they understood, they believe that their God is going to be unhappy unless you give them something that is important to you. That's why it's called a sacrifice. But in our tradition, that's not the idea. The idea is to bring an offering in the sense that we seek to come close to Hashem. Yes, we're giving something, but the purpose is not to lose something, but rather to develop closeness to Hashem. Number 5, there are 2 types of korbanot. The korbanot can be divided into many, many types of categories. So one way to divide them is like this. One type of korban is a korban tzibur. Okay? Korban tzibur, tzadi, yud, bet, vav, resh. Korban tzibur. And that is, when a korban is brought on behalf of the entire Jewish people. So if you bring one, if one animal is brought for the entire nation, that shows that it is a korban tzibur, is for the entire Jewish people, one single offering. For example, we have a korban tamid, right? That was the word tamid, like the ner tamid. Korban tamid is a korban that was brought every single day, twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. One single animal in the morning and one single animal in the afternoon. And that animal was brought on behalf of the entire Jewish people. Okay, it was brought every single day. Another example is the korban musaf. That is an additional, musaf is to add an additional korban, which was brought on Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, on the Chagim. And again, one animal was brought on behalf of the entire Jewish people. Now, how did it work? Who paid for this korbanot? Well, you know that we have something called a machatzita shekel. So each person over the age of 20 gave a half shekel once a year. And this was usually the time of Adar, the month of Purim. The money was collected, and that money was set up as a fund to pay for this korbanot. And since each person gave the exact same amount, that's the law, the Torah said that every person gave a half. A wealthy person could not give more, a poor person could not give less. Everybody gave the same amount. The reason is so that each person had an equal portion of the korban. Right? So we're all united equally. Every person gave the exact same amount for this korban, so it was brought equally on behalf of every single member of the Jewish people. Okay, so one type of korban is the korban tzibur, and these are examples of a public korban. The other type of korbanot are korban yachid, yud chet yud dalet. And these are private korbanot. These were brought by individuals. Now, why might an individual bring a korban? So there are many reasons. There is, for example, something called a korban todah, which is a thanksgiving offering. Let's say somebody, God forbid, was ill and they recovered from a serious illness. Right? Or somebody, for example, went through some dangerous situation, crossed the desert, or some journey that was very dangerous. So when they got to the other place in safety, they would bring a korban to Hashem in Yerushalayim as a thanksgiving offering. Another reason why an individual might bring a korban is a korban chatat. If a person did a certain type of sin by accident, not for every sin, but a major sin that was done by accident, so a person would bring a korban in order to gain forgiveness. Another example of a korban yachid, as a private korban, is korban Pesach. Right? A person would bring a korban Pesach in the afternoon before Pesach. And who paid for this korbanot? Well, obviously each person paid for them themselves, because it was for their own personal reasons. Okay, some of the steps. There are several steps in how the korban was brought. So just to make you aware of, how this worked. So a person will bring the korban to Yerushalayim, and the first thing that they would do is something called smicha, and that is that they would put both of their hands on the head of the animal. They would lean on the animal, not strongly, but just place their hands on the animal, All right, smicha means that they would place their hands on the head of the animal. Number two, another important step in the process of bringing korban is vidui, which is confession. And that is saying why they're bringing the korban. And this is important because bringing the korban is supposed to have a certain effect on the person. It's supposed to inspire the person. It's to bring the person to a higher spiritual level, for the person to come close to Hashem. So in order for that to have an effect, the person had to reflect. The person had to think a little bit, what's the reason that he's bringing it? Since it's just sending the animal in randomly and just going about their daily life without thinking, that's a waste. That's not right. So vidui was an important part of the process in order for the person to reflect and to think about what is the reason that he's doing this. There are several other steps in the process. They would, what was done with the korbanot, number 7, they would take the meat and it was placed on the mizbeach, on the altar. Okay, the animal was slaughtered on the ground level, and then some of the meat would be placed on the mizbeach, on the altar. Now, in some korbanot, the kohanim would eat part of the meat, and part was burnt on the mizbeach. The other korbanot, in certain korbanot, for example, in a korban todah, the owner and the kohanim would eat part of it, and part was burnt on the mizbeach. So in some korbanot, the kohanim ate, and the part of it was burnt on the mizbeach. In some of the korbanot, the owner also got a portion of the meat. He would eat with his family. He had a feast in Yerushalayim. The kohanim would eat from the meat, and part was burnt. Okay, so this is just a general overview of the korbanot. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at the first pasuk to learn something interesting about Moshe and about how the Sefer Vayikra starts.